Yeah. One piece of news which kind of went almost unnoticed over the last couple of days and has received scant attention has been what the government has been able to do with regards to a universal, a national minimum wage code bill. Let me tell you what has happened. The cabinet approved the new wage code bill on the 26th of July. I mean, that is last Thursday. The week before last, essentially. What has happened essentially is that this will now go to the parliament. The parliament will need to approve it. The cabinet has approved it. The parliament will need to approve it. With the numbers with the government should be able to push this through. This essentially aims to ensure a minimum wage nationally across sectors. That is essentially what this aims to do. Let me now actually tell you what the implications of this are going to be. The big implications of this are going to be if this goes through. The new minimum wage bill, first of all, is applicable for both the organized sector and the unorganized sector. I mean, the organized segment is very small, under 10% of the total workforce in the country. These new rules are applicable for all workers irrespective of their pay. At present, the minimum wages are applicable to workers getting up to 18,000 rupees a month, but this new rule, if passed, will be applicable across the board. And what this also means that states will not be able to set a minimum wage which is lower than the one set by the central government. Now, of course, I'm just putting out the main big points and highlighting the implications. There is a lot more. It's a big document. So let's just discuss this in some detail in terms of what the implications could be. Sonal Arora is Vice President of TeamLease. Soumyakanti Ghosh is Chief Economic Advisor at State Bank of India. Thank you very much, both of you. Sonal, let me come to you first. Is this good or is this bad? What the government is proposing, a minimum wage bill?
So, it's difficult to put it in terms of black and white of good and bad, but definitely, it will have implications which I think are not being thought of at this moment. The far-reaching implications, apart from the fact that it takes away the power from the states, to do reforms at their level, to decide the threshold levels of salary in their own state, which attract industry, is the fact that it views India as one, universal labor market, which is not really the case. India is multiple labor markets. The labor market in Bihar is very different from the labor market in Kerala or the labor market in Maharashtra. So having a universal minimum wage, while I understand the bill does talk about the fact that states can, increase this threshold limit. They can't, of course, lower it, but they can increase it. But the very fact that you are even in principle talking about the concept of a universal wage, threshold for floor level across India, I think is a little disturbing, because it completely disregards the complexity of India as a country in terms of the labor market. So that is.
Sonal, if allow me to interrupt you there, the document talks about some parameters for setting this up. It talks about subcommittees which will go into things like skills required, the amount of labor, geographical location, and other factors which the government may consider necessary.
It does. So I was looking at the document, earlier, and it does talk about that. Now, skills-wise labor, I understand it happens even now. But the moment, you talk about a national, so unless, they actually go to the extent saying that the national minimum wage will be a minimum wage which will vary across regions and even maybe within regions across states, in which case then, it's old wine in new bottle, because and it's more damaging, because right now the states have the decision-making authority to decide on these aspects for their particular states. Now, if you are saying that, okay, we will, take the complexities of skill levels.
Sonal, but your understanding is that there will be one minimum wage and then there will be all these variations. But that minimum wage threshold will stand. That's your understanding.
That's my understanding, okay. And there is no clarity right now contrary to that. Okay. So based on my reading of the draft, that is my understanding, that there will be a national minimum wage, and if it's not going to be like that, if there will be multiple minimum wages across states which the center is going to decide, then I think it's a little self-defeating, because then you are essentially serving the same wine in a new bottle. Then you might as well leave it to states to decide, which is what happens right now. So,
Sure. So, Sonal, allow me to bring in Soumya into the discussion as well. And Soumya, your thoughts. It's still early days. It's a bill. It needs to be sort of enacted into a law by Parliament. So we don't have very fixed numbers. But any sense of the sort of wage inflation maybe that might be a result of this ultimately becoming law?
No, exactly. I think I was should be coming to that point only. I mean, see, there are two aspects to it. First is the wage inflation. The second aspect is how the states are going to implement it. Let me come to the second point first before I give you some numbers on what could be the wage inflation. If I come to the second point, if you historically look into the data of the states implementing minimum wages and the central government act, we'll always find that the states have been lagging a little bit in terms of the implementation. So basically, if the center goes ahead and says that from 2017 this should be the minimum wages applicable, the states have bound to implement that. But the crucial thing is that it is not important. It is not necessary that the state should also increase the wages by the same amount with the center is supposed in the bill. So this is point number one. Now, regarding the exact point, so basically in this case also if the central government has proposed a 25 or 30% wages hike for some categories of unskilled laborers within say the cement industry, the states may actually go for a hike which may be a little lower than that. Now having said that, in terms of the wage inflation, I think the numbers could be significantly on the higher side. If I give you some numbers, I mean the increase in the categories of skilled workers proposed, for example, unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled and highly skilled across industries. If I look into the numbers, the hike is proposed in the range of 27% to 218%. For example, in Maharashtra, if you convert the minimum wages per month and convert into days, the minimum wages for an unskilled laborer in construction sector today per day is coming to 421 rupees, which the central government is proposing to hike it to 523 rupees. Same for the cement industry unskilled laborer, from where the number is supposed to go up from 176 to 350. So these increases are actually very significant. I am not sure how much of this, for example, and it will vary from state to state, how much the Maharashtra may increase. But at the end of the day, I think there is going to be an increase in the cost for these skill of laborers across different states.
Very valid points there. Sonal, do we know the number? What is being proposed? Will 18,000 rupees a month become the de facto universal minimum wage? Or we don't have clarity on that?
We don't have clarity on that, and it could go higher because there is also a parallel discussion that right now for the the average family unit based on which this 18,000 was arrived at was considered to be 3, 2 adults, 2 children. So you consider the child as half an adult and you make it 3. Now there is also a discussion going on that India being the kind of society it is, there are parents who live, and why consider the children as half an adult because the needs of education and also that number is going to be considered now 6. So, what I have heard is that 24,000, is what is the number which is being talked about. Of course, there is no clarity on this from the Labour Ministry. I think we will know more as the bill, reaches the Parliament at a discussion stage and these points are raised and clarity is given. But definitely, even from where we stand today, it will be a significant hike of 75-100%.
Soumya, in 30 seconds, if you can, how will this be implemented for the unorganized sector, which is the big segment? I mean, how do you ensure that whatever is decided gets done in terms of getting paid?
I think that's a very important question. But if I look into the Maharashtra minimum wages also, that has been that was implemented in 2011. That has been done in 2014 and 2017. It is due. So I think at the end of the day, there are 4 skills. I think for this unorganized sector, which is typically the unskilled category, there will be some sort of minimum wage increase from the current levels. But how much of that could be done, that is a matter of discussion. That could be left based to the state.
All right, Sonal and Soumya, thank you so much for joining in. Really interesting trends there. Proposed increase in wages could be anywhere between a range of 27% and almost 213%, as Soumya pointed out. So get ready for some serious wage inflation when that bill makes it into law. On that note, we'll have to wind up today's edition of Trading Hour. Thanks for watching.